Hello Stampers! I've got a very colorful card for you today, and this card was created using the brand new Stampin' Up! Earthen Textures Bundle. So this is a bundle with the stamp set, which has some great pots and some foliage and some wonderful sayings, of course. And then there is a die set that has all these pieces to cut out the pots and the plants and such. And then it has additional pieces. So the standalone pieces, like it has this fan here. That's the leaf that I use for this. And I just think it's beautiful. It makes this great design in the leaves and gives it lots of textures. And then there's pieces here that you can texturize the pots with. So that's what I did today, and I'm going to show you how this all goes together. I just decided to give it a really bright background and some great colors for the leaves. I did different colors for each leaf, so each leaf stood out well. And then I created this pot here, and it looks like wood the way it came out, and I was quite happy with that. So let's get going on our project today. I'm going to start with our pot. There's a stamp for this tall pot that we're going to use, and this has it gives it a textured look. So I started out with Pecan pie cardstock. I just thought that'd be a great undercolor for it, and so I'm going to use a dark color to stamp it in, which is Early Espresso. So I'm taking this really dark brown Early Espresso, and I'm going to stamp this on here. And that gives you that textured look on it. And then I'm going to take, and I cut out of Wild Wheat cardstock this piece here. Now this is in the die set, and it's a little wide for this pot, but it still worked out great. So I'm just going to adhere this onto the pot. And this is all before I die cut that pot out. I'm just going to add a little glue to this. Whoop. If I can hold on to it. There we go. Now I just put just a hint of glue, and I'm going to place this on the pot. Just going to kind of center it up here. And then it looks like that. I know, Michelle, what are you doing? Okay. Well, then I took the die for the pot, and I put it on there just to match the pot itself. I guess it goes this way. And then I die cut it out. And then you end up with this piece. So by the magic of video, voila, there it is. And then I decided that to make it round looking, I wanted a little more color on the edges of this. So I'm taking that Early Espresso that we had out and a blending brush. And I'm just going to ink up just the tip of this brush, and I'm going to add some color to the outside edge of this. Just the right side and the left side, not the bottom or the top. And when you do that, it leaves like a highlighted area in the center. So that gives you more of a rounded shape look. And I keep holding this upside down. The flat end is the top. So there is our pot, and I just want to add some highlights to it. I wanted it to look like it was had some white lines on it, so I'm just grabbing my white gel pen. This is a Signa white gel pen I just got from Amazon, and I'm putting a line at the very top of that die and the bottom. It gives me a bit of a white line look on that. Then I'm going to add a dot in the center of this, one on each side. And there we go. And I'm going to do the same to the bottom. And so that is all the design I wanted on that pot. So there it is. And that's all ready to go. And then I die cut that fan die, and I die cut it out of 3 different colors. I did Pretty Peacock, Garden Green, and Old Olive. And I thought those looked really nice together. And I wanted them, like I said, all different colors so that you can see each one individually. And I think I'm going to put some, you can't see the base of this one, so I'm going to leave that be. But these other 2, you can actually see the whole leaf pretty much. So I'm going to add some Garden Green to the Old Olive one. So with a blending brush, I'm just adding this kind of like a circular motion in here. And see how that comes out? Turns out really pretty. Just putting like a spot there. So that was the Old Olive one. I put Garden Green on the Old Olive one. And then I'm going to put Pretty Peacock on the Garden Green one. Doing that same thing, just doing a circular motion in there, getting that spot. All right, so there are our die cuts all done. And I just have those placed to the side. And now we're ready for our main panel. And you're going to find all the dimensions for this card down below this video. Just click Show More, you'll see them all there, along with all the links to the products that I used. And I can tell my Sadie's been up here. She's got hair on my stuff. She's my cat. And she likes to be where I am, so that's okay. So we're going to start with our scene here, and I have a 2-inch circle punch here, and I took a double layer Post-it note, and I punched the 2-inch circle in the sticky part of the Post-it note. And that gives it some sticky to stick on our scene here. And I do a double layer because I've found that a double layer really helps protect what you're masking there. And we're masking for the sun, and I didn't want anything to seep through. So we're going to get going on that. We got our sun where we want it. I have it partially off of the cardstock here a little bit. I like that look, like the sun is just coming onto the cardstock. Okay, so we're going to start with our lightest color in our background, and that is Crushed Curry. So this is a nice bright yellow. And we're just going to put this on our cardstock, and we're going to leave the bottom third with no color. And we're going to be layering our colors, and I think that's the best way to do sunsets and sunrises, is to put your lightest color down first. And even though you won't see all of this color on here, it blends with the other colors. It just makes for a nice scene. Next we're doing pumpkin pie. Also going to bring out my blending brush here. And I'm going to do the top 2/3 of the crushed curry area with that pumpkin pie. And I do use a circular motion because I don't want it to look like I have a racing stripe down here where they meet. So there is our pumpkin pie. Then we're going to go to Cajun Craze. And the Cajun Craze I like to just kind of put around this sun and darken that corner. So there is my sunset. And then for the ground area, I'm going to use Garden Green. Again with a blending brush. And a circular motion, just going up and meeting that yellow there. And then at the bottom of it, I want to use a darker color, so I'm going to bring back in that Early Espresso. And I'm adding some of that along the bottom of this ground area. There we go. Okay, so it's time to take our mask off. See how white that is? It's time to tone it down a bit. And we're going to use crushed curry for that and our blending brush. And so I'm just going to add some of that in a circular motion inside of that shape. And I like to leave like a little of that white showing at the edges of that masked area. Okay. So there is our colors for the background. Now I just want to add a little plant life in the background. So again with our Post-it notes, I'm just going to add a Post-it note along the bottom here. And I'm probably come up to where that Early Espresso meets the green. And this is the sticky edge that I stuck on there. And we're going to be using this plant here. And when you only use the top of it, have the top of it showing, it looks like grasses. So that's what I'm going to do across here. And you can do them different heights, just so they don't look like little soldiers. So that was Early Espresso I stamped that with. Okay. So take that off and see how it just looks like there's little grasses coming up there. So that's a good way to use foliage stamps that have long stems and stuff. You can definitely just put a Post-it note down, and when you stamp it, you get these little plants. And they're so useful in scenes. Okay, so now to start putting this together, I have my 3 leaves here, and I'm going to start with this blue one that goes in kind of in the background. And these stems I'm going to bend. So don't worry about them being straight, because we can bend them to wherever we want them to be. And I'm going to start with this blue one. I'm just going to put some glue on there. And I want it to be up here in the corner. I didn't put any glue on the stem. I want some glue going down that stem a bit. There we go. I want it to be up here in the corner. I'm kind of leaning it that direction. And then I'm going to take a hold of this stem before I put it all the way down, and I'm just going to bend it some. Because it's got to go in this pot, right? So now I know where my stems are all going to be so that I can get them inside this pot. So I want them all centered together. Next is our Garden Green plant here, her leaf. I'm not sure what to call it. Fan palm or something of that sorts. I'm going to do that same thing, only I'm going to have this one peeking above the cardstock a little bit. I know I have like a ½ inch past this panel for it to stay on the card. So there is that. Okay. So now I'm going to get this old olive one and get it on. And this one I'm going to bend the leaf stem here. So I'm going to like twist it a bit. And when I put this on, it's going to go off the cardstock a little bit too. See where that bend is right there at the base a bit. So now I have all those together, and then I can put my pot on. Here we go, and I'm going to pop this up using Stampin' Dimensionals. Just going to put 4 dimensionals on here. There we go. Now I'm making sure I have my pot right. The rounded edge goes down. And I'm going to put it right here at the bottom of the panel. There we go. And you make sure your stems look like they're coming out of the pot. And there's our front of our card. Now if you want you can take your white gel pen and you can add some little dots in that little grassy area on those little plants. If your background color isn't very dark though, they might not show up. Mine seems to be plenty dark. So I'm just making some quick dots. And that is that. So now we're ready to start putting things together. I have a pretty peacock panel here, and this panel is 4 by 5.25. And when I put this on, I'm going to have this panel come all the way down to the bottom right corner and then flush with the sides there. And so you just see that color on the left and the top. That's just to give some interest to the panels here so they're not so squared out. This is why I love glue. I have just a second to move things around. There we go. All right, so here's our card base. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and I folded it in half to create my quarter card. Now I'm going to do that same thing on the front of this card. I'm just going to bring this down to the bottom right. Add a little love. There we go. And there is our card front. See how that comes together? Look how bright and cheery that card is. Okay, so we have a couple panels for the inside. And so I have another panel that's 4 by 5.25, and this is pretty peacock. And then I decided to bring some pumpkin pie in there to coordinate with our sky area. This is where you'd put your sentiment in. And you certainly can put a sentiment on the front of your card too. There's still some space. I will be putting my sentiment in later when I know what I'm going to use this card for. Okay, so there's the inside of our card, just as bright as the outside. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this project and that you give it a try. That's a wonderful bundle that we have there, the Earthen Textures. So pick that up, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining me. Toodles!